This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. We begin with the labour dispute between Canada's two largest rail companies and thousands of unionized workers. The federal government sent the dispute to binding arbitration yesterday, but there is still uncertainty about when it will be resolved and how long until trains are moving again. CBC's Mike Arsenault has more on those affected and the impacts on the economy.
Virgil Seidler works for the Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railway and would prefer to be on the train. Instead, he's here on the picket line. The work stoppage at CPKC is ongoing. The matter is now with the Canada Industrial Relations Board. Seidler is worried employees will be forced to go back to work.
Really just sends a message to companies that you don't have to negotiate. You can just bide your time and the government will send your employees back to work.
CN and CP locked out more than 9,000 workers Thursday. Hours later, the Labour Minister referred the dispute to the CIRB. The ongoing dispute is causing concern for industry and provincial governments, who say this will have an impact on the country's economy and reputation. Keystone Agriculture Producers President Jill Verwey wants to see a quick resolution.
It does affect the whole ag sector, and even including the livestock sector with transportation of meat products. So this affects every Canadian when we have something like this occur.
Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew wants to see the issue resolved quickly.
I wish that the federal government could take an action here that would just provide a resolution and a path forward here that's fair for the workers but keeps the economy moving.
Wade Subkowicz with the Western Grain Elevator Association is concerned about the economy too. He says there's an average of $50 million worth of grain on trains per day.
When we're not moving, that's $50 million worth of grain that's not being moved and not making its way to its customer. It eventually will get there, but there's a cascading effect.
Subkowicz says the backup will eventually lead to a sale that doesn't get made. Seidler says he understands the impact on the economy.
But we do understand that if we're not willing to stand up for our rights as a union, that's going to have a degrading effect on every other industry and sector around us.
The two railways haul a combined $1 billion in goods each day, according to the Railway Association of Canada. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg police have arrested 3 youths in connection with 2 violent attacks. In early August, an 80-year-old man was attacked with a machete along Pritchard Avenue. He ended up in hospital in stable condition. Police say a 12-year-old girl, a 14-year-old boy, and a 15-year-old boy were responsible for that attack. They were armed with machetes and an axe. The girl was arrested and charged. Then on August 7th, police alleged the 2 boys assaulted a different 15-year-old with machetes, causing life-altering injuries. The victim was unknown to his attackers. Both boys are in custody and facing multiple charges. Well, Winnipeggers may notice a strange-looking quad rolling along sidewalks over the next few months. The city has contracted a company to collect data on sidewalk conditions. And as the CBC's Cameron McLean shows us, this comes as the city plans to quadruple spending on sidewalks.
This is the Sidewalk Surface Tester, the city's latest tool to track sidewalk conditions in Winnipeg. Equipped with cameras, GPS, and other devices, the machines record information on length, surface materials, cracks, and other factors that could affect the sidewalk's usability.
We never collected data on sidewalks before. It was mainly basically area inspectors identifying areas. This will provide us more accurate data, more consistent data.
The city plans to map out all 3,200 kilometers of Winnipeg sidewalks by the end of October. Artificial intelligence programs then assess the data, which the city will use to determine which sidewalks need work most urgently. Public Works Chair Janice Luke says up till now, the city has relied on visual assessments and 311 calls to make decisions about sidewalk maintenance.
To have this and then to be able to compare the inventory from year to year, to compare the changes, I think it's going to be way better in strategically investing where we spend our money.
The city is using similar technology to collect data on streets, back lanes, and pathways, but this is a first for sidewalks. The budget for sidewalk maintenance is set to quadruple from $1 million to about $4 million by 2027. Disability advocate Peter Tong welcomes any effort to make sidewalks better, but he says the new machines are just a first step.
But I think the other element to look at is also where they're doing it. So in high-density areas with lots of folks, where lots of folks with disabilities live, maybe they need to be prioritized, even if the sidewalks aren't in the worst condition.
The city plans to do sidewalk assessments every 3 years. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Brandon is reducing bus service on 3 of its transit routes come Monday. That is so its fleet can undergo some much-needed upgrades. On any given day, the city of Brandon says about half of its 17 active buses are not on the road because they need repairs. The buses provide more than 1 million rides a year to the city's 54,000 residents. Brandon's transportation director, Carla Richardson, says the wear and tear on its transit buses is starting to affect service.
They are really showing their age and they need to have some structural repairs done. And that's what we talked with council about, being able to utilize the capital plan to refurbish some of the existing equipment. It's a quicker turnaround time.
In the meantime, the city of Brandon says rental equipment and micro-transit cabs will be added to its transit fleet, along with more access buses to get people where they need to go. Winnipeg's Inuit Resource Center has expanded and community members are excited. Tungasugit's new location in the North End gives Inuit Winnipeggers a place to connect with the community and enjoy a taste of home. They're also celebrating a recent policy change that will make it easier to access health care. Michaela De Los Santos has the story.
So here we have our reception.
Tungasugit, it means welcome in Inuktitut. Here in Winnipeg, the nonprofit has expanded their location to be able to welcome more people.
You know, historically, Inuit never had a place to come to and gather and feel like they were a part of a community.
Nikki Komakshatiksak is the executive director of Tungasugit. She says from Monday to Thursday this summer, the building is open for community members to drop in, use a computer, wash clothes, and have country food like caribou, Arctic char, and maktak.
I feel so like I want to cry every single time I see a community member walking in and their jaws are dropping on the floor because they see the space. Because prior to the space, we were just in over 1,200 square feet of space, which is really a 2-bedroom house.
For Inuk Winnipegger Kelly Hayes Makayak, the drop-ins are what connects the community.
Because we all in Nunavut gather together all the time. And now that we're living in Winnipeg, it's a little bit different. We're very separated.
The new center in Winnipeg is just one of Tungasugit's victories. Back in July, Manitoba Health changed its policies to include Inuit identification to register for the province's health benefits. Before that, it was hard for community members to get a health card.
When we were finding that the majority of our community members were actually being denied and or could not get their Manitoba Health Care card because Manitoba Health did not deem Inuit territorial cards as a form of identification or lineage to the land in Nunavut.
Komakshatiksak says that it took a lot of sweat and tears for the change to happen.
We have community members and staff that have actually died because of this barrier.
While Winnipeg is home for Hicks Makayak, they say connection has and always been a big part of the Inuit culture.
In Nunavut, we really do rely upon each other, and we have been for thousands and thousands of years. It's just who we are as a community.
Michaela De Los Santos, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers will look for their 3rd straight win tonight as they host the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The CFL West Division is up for grabs, and the Bombers are looking to close in on the leaders. Coming off of 2 wins against BC, the Bombers are just a point behind the Lions for 2nd in the division and 3 points behind 1st place Saskatchewan. The Ticats are last in the East, but come in with a new look on defense led by veteran coach Chris Jones. Kickoff is at 7:30 p.m. And it will not be a terrible night for some football tonight. A warm one out there once again today, and we're looking at a warm weekend ahead. Let's have a look now at satellite and radar. Not a lot to see, mainly sunny sky here in southern Manitoba. But if you look to the bottom left side of your screen there, you can see a few stray showers in the area around Melita, Boissevain, Killarney, and some thunderstorms rolling through the Red Lake region into northwestern Ontario. But we do have a heat warning to tell you about. This for northwestern Ontario. We're looking at temperatures, daytime highs around 29 degrees, daytime lows about 18 degrees or so for the next couple of days. So not a lot of reprieve during the day or overnight, prompting this heat warning for the next couple of days in place for northwestern Ontario. We also have an air quality advisory in place for Dauphin, Roblin, Swan River up through Flin Flon, the Pas, Lynn Lake, Thompson into the Island Lake and God's Lake region as well. This is because of wildfire smoke that is sort of floating around the region there, drifting around the region there. You can see some of the brighter colors on this wildfire smoke analysis map that I'm showing you here, particularly around the God's Lake region. This is because of a fire near Pekanjikam, Ontario, that is pushing some of that smoke into northeastern Ontario. As we get into Saturday, places in western Manitoba will get a reprieve as the winds shift out of the south again, pushing some of that smoke from those fires in northern Saskatchewan a bit further north into the territories. So looking at our weekend ahead, we're looking at a mainly sunny sky to start Saturday, although in Westman in particular, Melita, Brandon into Riding Mountain National Park, we could see a few stray thunder showers first thing in the morning. Other than that, a mix of sun and clouds tomorrow. We get a better chance for some showers and some thunderstorms here in the south come Sunday. A cloudier day, but still some sunny breaks as we head through later Sunday and into Monday once again. Overnight tonight, looking at lows around 16 degrees for Dauphin and Brandon, a risk of thunderstorms in the west. Overnight tonight, 18 for Gimli, 11 in Thompson with a partly cloudy sky, up to 25 in both Thompson and Lynn Lake tomorrow. Risk of thunderstorms, particularly in Westman tomorrow through the early part of the day. 29 in Dauphin, 31 in Brandon tomorrow. I've got Winnipeg at 30 degrees. And tomorrow is a good beach day. Here's a look at your beach day forecast into the Lake of the Woods region, looking at a sun cloud mix, 28 degrees. Good chance of some morning showers, maybe a thunderstorm in Clear Lake at 27, and 28s on both sides of Lake Winnipeg tomorrow with a mix of sun and clouds. I will have your full 7-day forecast coming up just a little bit later on. Well, it is a garden full of color, fragrance, and tradition. Eva Pipp started her garden in Cloverleaf, Manitoba, more than 3 decades ago. But some of those plants were around long before then and transplanted and shared over generations. CBC community reporter Shanalee Vittel got a tour of Eva's garden southwest of Beausejour.
I planted very well everything you see here, except for the wild bush. It's extremely therapeutic because it's not just, even though it's a lot of work, you have tangible history in your hands. In Ukrainian culture, the rose was associated with a lot of magical ceremonies, and especially love. So it often figured in love potions. My own love of plants comes from my mother because she came from a long line of Ukrainian gardeners and farmers. This is a creeping carnation, or pink. In the springtime, it's entirely covered with perfumed flowers. These are hops. This is a vine that, again, was very popular in Ukrainian gardens. And just as it's used here, it was used for brewing beer. Besides the sunflower, there are a lot of other really beloved plants for Ukrainians. So one of them is the poppy. That's always a big favorite. So, of course, the Ukrainian homesteaders brought seeds along with them. And we also have bachelor buttons, which are these blue flowers. What I found very interesting is that for many plants that grow both in Ukraine and here, that independently, the medicinal uses for Ukrainians and for the indigenous people turn out to be the same. They're very aromatic. They have a strong odor to them. And that was probably one of the reasons why it was considered a useful herb for warding off evil. So these plants were given to my mother by the neighbor that was the professional horticulturalist back in Ukraine. And so when he brought them here to Canada, at that point they were already more than 100 years old.
When these are in full bloom and you look at them, like how does that make you feel?
It's such delight, especially since it takes you back to your ancestors and the previous generations that enjoyed these same plants.
Still ahead for us tonight, we'll bring you more on the restrictions coming for flavored nicotine pouches in our country. We'll break down the new rules and reaction to the move next. Stay with us. Well, as we showed you last night, restrictions are coming for flavored nicotine pouches in our country. As of next week, it will be illegal for them to be sold anywhere but from behind a pharmacy counter. Marina von Stackelberg has more on the new rules and reaction.
Okay, one green and one purple.
In a matter of days, nicotine pouches will be pulled from gas stations and convenience store shelves. Fruity flavors will be completely recalled. Only mint will be available if you ask a pharmacist for it.
How come they look like candy? I don't think so.
But inside this container are tiny pouches placed between your gum and cheek. Doctors say they release the nicotine equivalent of smoking 3 to 4 cigarettes. Anti-tobacco organizations have been calling for a crackdown for nearly a year. They say the pouch flavors and bright packages do resemble candy, and teens are using them.
It has been so deeply disturbing to see so many young people becoming addicted to these nicotine pouches who've never had any interaction with cigarettes.
Imperial Tobacco, the cigarette company that makes Zonic pouches, will have 6 months to pull all advertising that could appeal to youth and to change its packaging to include a warning label. Health advocates say that can't come soon enough.
The fall term in school is very important with respect to the norms that are set by kids and the introduction of new products, whether it's fidget spinners or vaping products or nicotine pouches.
Imperial says its products aren't meant for anyone under the age of 18 and tells stores to check ID. But until now, selling the pouches to kids was legal. That's because Health Canada approved Zonic to help adults quit cigarettes. The health minister has accused Imperial of using that as a loophole.
We were duped. Unfortunately, sometimes you get duped.
As Ottawa clamps down, community groups have scrambled to stop another nicotine product from addicting the next generation.
As a young person, you might not be able to differentiate exactly what it is. And you might just think that, oh, this product looks cool, like, let me try it out.
Researchers say governments need to get more nimble to better keep up with big tobacco.
We need to get past this period where the industry throws out products and we're blind until a year or two later when we say, oh, it's okay or it's not okay.
What's not clear is how many teens experimented with the pouches in the year they were readily available. Ottawa isn't tracking that. Health Canada did away with surveys dedicated to nicotine use within the last few years, just as vaping was taking off and pouches hit the market. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Kamala Harris is now the Democratic Party's official candidate for U.S. president. She accepted the nomination last night at the convention in Chicago, and starting today, the real work of getting elected begins.
So let's get out there. Let's fight for it. Let's get out there. Let's vote for it. And together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
If she wins this fall, Harris will become the first female U.S. president, one who's Black and South Asian, and she has a Canadian connection. Harris spent 5 years, starting when she was 12, living in Montreal. Americans go to the polls November 5th. One day after that Democratic convention, another political curveball in the States today. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is suspending his campaign to become U.S. president and throwing his support behind the Republican candidate, Donald Trump.
It's with a sense of victory and not defeat that I'm suspending my campaign activities. Not only did we do the impossible by collecting 1 million signatures, we changed the national political conversation forever. Chronic disease, free speech, government corruption, breaking our addiction to war have moved to the center of politics.
Kennedy says he continues to have differences with Trump on some issues, but is aligned on more. His polling numbers have dropped, though, since Kamala Harris joined the race. Kennedy, who is the nephew of former President John F. Kennedy, says his name will remain on the ballots in some states, but not in key battleground states. Well, we've just had a heat warning issued for much of southern Manitoba, including the city of Winnipeg. I'll have details on that and your dog walking forecast coming up next. As promised, here's a look at that heat warning now in place for Winnipeg, the White Shell, the Southern Interlake, and down into parts of Westman. This is because we're expecting, with the humidity, it could feel as hot as 38 or hotter over the next couple of days. So be mindful of that. Still in place for the northwestern Ontario region as well. Looking at 30s across the prairies tomorrow, high 20s across southern Ontario into Quebec and into the Maritimes. Here's a look at your dog walking forecast for your Saturday, and this one is my mom's dog, Tucker. Thank you for sending this one to me. Talkback at cbc.ca. We're looking at a 30-degree high tomorrow. Southeast winds gusting to 40. Quick look at your 7-day forecast now. Hot and windy this weekend. Cools off a bit through Monday, Tuesday, when we could see some thunderstorms and a risk of storms on Thursday as well. If you're planning a final summer trip to the beach this weekend, you better act fast. You might find yourself sharing the sand with some unexpected competition. That's tonight's Daily Lift. A horde of sea lions has taken over San Carlos Beach in Monterey, California. This prompted local officials to close the area to people. Still, curious crowds have shown up to take in the spectacle, taking photos as the lions rest and play.
Oh, they're incredibly loud, and it's like, you know, this is like the sea lion convention, you know? So I don't know what party they're in, but, you know, they're definitely all got something to say.
Those are expected to remain on the beach for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Very nice. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. See you soon.